So hey anime fan, the series name is What If Naruto Fall in Love with Shaltear? So let's start the series. The life of Uzumaki Naruto could be described as strange in the most sense of the word, being a shinobi of an age that even the time forgot about it. It was then Naruto the only one who remembered that time where humanity branded powers where now they can only dream, write or recreate to the best of their ability. After the apocalyptic war that was the Fourth Great Shinobi War, where allied forces faced armies of white humanoids, armies of the undead who were also almost invincible, armies of a single man like Uchiha Obito or Madara Uchiha, a beast of infinite power that could destroy everything with just one gas from his stomach, and to put the cherry on the cake, a three-eyed rabbit, goddess who could skip dimensions and destroy anything with a bone, until today, and who knows how much longer remains sealed on the moon. Naruto Uzumaki had been a major fighter of the Fourth Great War, and he sealed that goddess together with his friends. He had lived a strange life by the modern and ancestral standards of human society. Uzumaki Naruto was also an immortal who roamed the world or sometimes fell asleep for several hundred years, just to wake up and wander around more, writing pornography or spreading the divinity of his favorite food, that is the ramen, as a messiah of the exotic and ancestral food of little nutritional value. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto had seen things that a normal person would think were taken from an anime, a fantasy book, or from the head of a lunatic. But there was one thing that could even make this being from immemorial time that had seen crazy things drop a wow, it's so cool. Things that even he could not imagine with that simple mind of porn writer of his. Video games. For Naruto they were like doors to any place. In addition there were all kinds of great histories, movements that even he could not imagine. People could recreate anything. Besides, to fight against opponents that went from human to gods of other dimensions or sultan's demons that would do Kaguya ran terrified in terror. There was a massively multiplayer online that used virtual reality called Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil was not one of those games that everyone hated pay to win. There were items that you could buy with real money, but most were appearing and so on. Yggdrasil let the player and his friends fight for themselves and find everything that the vast worlds could offer. In addition to always having events available so the player could enjoy the game more, Yggdrasil did not want your money in return for this. Yggdrasil want your soul, and Naruto was one of the many people who were happy to give it. There were moments of joy for Naruto. He had a guild with which he went through all kinds of crazy adventures, days full of laughter with them, to live adventures, to defeat bosses that seemed impossible, to gather objects that were so rare that it was like looking for water in the middle of the Sinai desert. Naruto won a family again. Together he and his guildmates created an impenetrable fortress underground that became their home for a long time. They created guardians in it, and other inhabitants with all the love of the world. They put their souls in creating their guild, their grave, their home for all the races of the game that had bad karma and were monsters. Ain Zolgaun. Ain Zolgaun was the strongest guild of heteromorphic races that were by default bad in the world of Yggdrasil. There were strange octopuses, slimes, human goats, cursed samurai, lynches, dragons in human form. Ain Zolgaun was ranked in the top 10 of the guilds of Yggdrasil. Once even several good guilds formed an alliance to destroy the mythical tomb where the 42 supreme beings inhabited. For Naruto that was a battle only comparable to that of the old Fourth Great Shinobi War. Websites like the official page of Yggdrasil covered the battle in real-time event. The whole world had his eyes on what was known as the Great War between good and evil. 15,000 attacking players clashed against all the might that the tomb of Nazarick could muster. Finally, after days of non-stop fighting, the attackers gave up and the great tomb of Nazarick emerged victorious. Everyone exclaimed euphoric victory, endless messages of support and hatred. Some members even received letters and gifts in real life. People knew that Naruto, alias in the game also Naruto, was the owner of a small ramen restaurant in Japan. Immediately hundreds of people came to meet in person the ancestral shinobi and leader of the great tomb of Nazarick. The glory seemed not to end, but of course it ended. I'm so sorry Naruto-san, but I have to get up at 4 in the morning, have to work, wrote an imposing skeleton, dressed in fine clothes. He was an elder lynch ruling over death, an overlord. Don't worry about it Momonga-san, it was fun while it lasts Naruto wrote. Yes, maybe we can meet again in Yggdrasil too, wrote the skeleton. That would be very nice Sasaki, you should try to come to my ramen shop more often, Naruto wrote. Ha ha ha, you and the obsession with that food, maybe tomorrow will happen after work, see you later Naruto the lynch wrote, and then disappear. If Naruto's character could sigh with sadness right now he would. That was because Yggdrasil would officially close today at midnight. Naruto was quite sad about it. His friends were leaving the game one by one, until it was only he who was at the end, had connected tonight to face anyone who will try to challenge the tomb of Nazarick for one last time. But no opponent had come. He had connected with the hope of seeing one of his old friends, but none other than Momonga had connected. Naruto had been the only one to connect in order to keep the guild in the same state as when they all played Yggdrasil together. He had been logged every day to hunt and maintain the guild. Maybe someone else would have bothered that any of his friends would connect and help him keep the place they built together. But Naruto was not a normal person. He was a person who could not even consider himself old. He was a person who had lived by far too long, someone who had met people throughout his long life who now were no longer with him, and Naruto missed them. Naruto got up. His avatar was tall, his nails painted black. He wore sandals, a green scarf, a long black sack with red clouds painted around it, plus an orange spiral mask that ended in his eye that looked like swallowing the light because you could not see anything outside. The mask completely covered his face, only let you see his short pointed golden hair, same attire as Tobi from Naruto. His avatar was a dragon man, a heteromorphic race that was a gigantic dragon that could become a man. That was the lore behind the race of Naruto avatar. Of course they were much stronger and faster than a normal human. Naruto walked around the huge round table that had 42 seats where his companions used to have meetings, until he stood in front of a certain item. It was a majestic golden scepter, with beautiful jewels embedded around it, supported by mouths of dragons that were carved in it. Ha ha ha, Momonga and the others never let me use you. Naruto rejoiced, remembered the long endless discussions he had and his guildmates to use the guild symbol. If the scepter was destroyed then the guild would be automatically dissolved. In Yggdrasil each guild had a treasure that should be guarded jealously because if that treasure was destroyed or fell into the hands of its enemies then the guild would be defeated automatically. But today is a special day. Naruto took the scepter. Let's take a last walk on the great tomb of Nazarick. Leaving the room known as the Round Table, Naruto walked with the staff of Ain's old gown rumbling on the thin floor. The great tomb of Nazarick was many things but not a grave. If the alliance of players who invaded the tomb had made it here, they could not have avoided marveling at the beauty of this place. They would never imagine that such an infamous place could be so beautiful. Beautiful and wide hallways placidly illuminated by candles, and on top of the roof was a beautiful starry sky on the ceiling. And this alone was one of the most normal areas of Nazarick's 10 floors. Even after so much time walking through these corridors, Naruto could not help but marvel at seeing them, even if he was part of those who built it. The wonders he had seen in his long life paled in front of his beloved grave. If Naruto truly died at some point he would like to rest here. Naruto walked admiring everything, shaking his head to see well what he and his friends built with blood and sweat, until he saw in front of him a beautiful woman who bowed at seeing him. Oh, Solution-chan. Solution Epsilon, wearing a custom outfit by a French maid. She was blonde, blue-eyed. Solution was one of the Pleiades, maids who personally served the 42 supreme beings, and one of the 2 NPCs created by Naruto. With the help of Perorancino and Whiterum, she is a slime hunter. Naruto had created it based on Naruto but with a drill hairstyle and without the marks on his cheeks. Like almost every NPC in Nazarick, it was Tabula Samaragdana who put the story behind Solution. Naruto had no idea what his relationship with her was or what the story behind Solution was. Follow me, Naruto commanded. She bowed again and started to follow. Tabula had also programmed certain commands in the NPC. Naruto climbed up the huge stairs. Right in front of him were a couple of huge doors. They had the engraving of a demon and the image of the demons of King Solomon. The gigantic doors opened, showing huge statues of more demons. If the invaders would have come so far when they invaded Nazarick, they would have fallen into a trap. These statues cast spells of very high level when they detected an intruder. Naruto finally came to the throne room. This is where he and Yubert would usually joke about face the players who have come here. Albert and Naruto took very seriously the roles of villains. Touch Me and Momonga along with everyone else called them Chinanibu. Next to the gigantic throne chair was what Naruto would call a goddess of beauty. A white skin like fine porcelain, body shaped like a perfect hourglass, black hair. A pair of black angel wings came out from her back, in addition to having twisted horns coming out of the temples of her head. She was Albedo, supervisor of the Guardians of Nazarick. Albedo! Shouted Naruto, He always greeted Nazarick's NPCs even if they did not respond, she only bowed. On the stairs were a group of NPCs, the other Pleiades, and their leader Sebastian, an old man who did not look old, with a straight back like an arrow. Behind him, the remaining Pleiades, Yuri, Nabril, C2Z, Lupus Agena and Antoma. Everyone bowed as he approached. Naruto went up the stairs and sat on the majestic throne. The NPCs had stayed below, except for Albedo standing next to him. Out of sheer curiosity, Naruto opened the story that Tabula had written of her. Too long. Naruto kept going down and down until he read the last. And she's also a lover of Naruto's porn books, ha ha. It was the members of the guild who only knew he had written Ika Ika, Tabula. Naruto sighed, watching the banners hanging from his friends, Mamanga, Hiro Hiro, Touch Me, Obert, and Koro Machi Machi, Pero Racino, Bakubaku Chagama, Takamikazuchi. Naruto continued to mention the names of each of his friends, pointing to the flags with the symbols of each one. Finally pointed his own. Naruto's was different from the others. Not because it was better or because he was the leader of the guild. Ainzul was a guild that favored the majority of votes. Naruto was only leader because the guild had to have one. His flag had an orange background and with the spiral of the Uzumaki clan in black color. Naruto looked at the clock that was on his screen. It was 23:59. And he could not help but let out a sigh of sadness. He loved to be here. Here nobody grew old. In this grave they were all immortals like him. He would never felt alone here. Naruto felt he would return to the solitude of real life. Right now he was thinking of going to sleep maybe another 100 years. Naruto would really miss not only his friends, but the NPC. Even if they did not talk, he got so fond of them. At midnight all this will come to an end. My family will go away again. How bad. Naruto checked the clock again. And there were only 10 seconds left in his true home. What a sadness. Naruto closed his eyes. He really felt sad. Midnight. Not a second passed and he already realized that something was different. Naruto was an experienced person. Maybe he has not fought a conflict so destructive since the Otsutsuki clan guys came down from the moon to fulfill their goals. Right now Naruto felt, or rather did not feel, his chakra. There was something different but equally powerful, freer but at the same time more limited. Another strange thing was his body. It was obvious to him, he was much stronger. That strange also felt something different inside him, only comparable to when he lost control of Karama chakra. Something primordial was moving inside him. But unlike when he lost control with Karama chakra, now Naruto felt he had complete control of it. With only one order he would become something and unleash fury and destruction. It was strange. He felt his emotions overflowing, his anger, his greed, his pride, his hunger, his laziness, his envy, his lust. It was as if everything was amplified many times. What's wrong with me? He said aloud. When he opened his eyes he realized immediately that he was still in the throne room of his tomb. He activate the screen commands and see if there was any news. Maybe the servers in the end did not close. Or maybe there had been a delay. Naruto tried to check for messages from the server, but his hand only touched air and on his screen was nothing. The strangest thing was that he saw as if he only had one eye. It was as if the mask he was wearing, it was as if he really wore the mask on, and his breath hit the mask. What's going on? What I have done? Everything felt very real, as if he were in the body of his avatar. Naruto looked at his hands. Naruto-sama, is something wrong? Naruto's head shot in the direction of that melodious goddess voice. It sounded as if he was really worried, the same tone that Sakura used when she was really worried about him. But this voice sounded 1,000 times more beautiful. And then Naruto saw it. It was Albedo, who had a face of absolute concern on her goddess face. For Naruto it was weird. He could no longer feel the emotions of the people, but he had become quite good reading the expressions. Albedo? It was the only thing he could conjure up at that moment. And Naruto-sama? Please, you are frightening me. Do you need anything? Anything? Albedo then got to his knees. I swear that I, Naruto-sama, Albedo, would do anything in my power to please you. Albedo was extremely worried right now. Only a few seconds ago the most noble and supreme of beings, who had not abandoned them, was sitting on his throne, and she, the Pleiades and Sebastian were all happily following his orders, and admiring him on his throne, looking extremely majestic. Albedo recorded that image well. Later she would knit a blanket with his master in that majestic position sitting on his throne. Albedo noticed the concerned eyes of Solution. She seemed literally melt into concern for her master. Albedo could not help but feel jealous of her. Lucky slug, she had been created by Naruto-sama himself, the last and the most noble of the supreme beings. The noblest of the 42 of them, for the simple fact of inventing the best books in the world. Albedo knew that solution had been created from a certain female character in the amazing Ika Ika. Just to think of it, Albedo wanted it to bite of one of her fingers. Naruto-sama, is everything okay? Do you need something? I'll immediately get into it. Solution, for her part, could not remain silent. While she saw his creator there, he seemed to be confused. She had a duty, his creator, and right now every nerve in her body screamed for doing something. It was good she could not sweat, or right now she would be drowning in her sweat. Naruto could not believe it. In Yggdrasil you could not speak exactly nor do facial expressions. There were no smells. Everything right now was extremely confusing for him. And then he heard Solution's voice. The only thing he knew for sure about her was that Tabula had written that she spoke like an Ojo-sama, or a princess, even imitating the accent. She just needed to say era and she would be perfect princess. It cannot be. Naruto now thought of the craziest idea he had ever had in his long life. What if all this became real? That sounded extremely idiotic, but it explained everything. Naruto had to check it. Without saying anything, he descended the stairs slowly. H echoed in the great hall with every step he took. When at last finished going down the stairs, he got to Solution. Get up, he said without thinking. Immediately they all stood up. For the Pleiades, Sebastian and Albedo, the Supreme Being did something incredible. He took off the glove from his right hand. Almost everyone in the room, even C2Z, who was a mechanized race, feel their eyes exploded inside of their heads. The Supreme Being had never done anything like that. Everyone admired the hand of the Supreme Being. Like his feet had black nails painted. It was the most beautiful hand they have ever seen. Then the Supreme Being dropped his glove. Of course, they were created only to serve their gods. The Supreme Beings, that one of their articles touched the dirty floor, even if it was in the great tomb of Nazarick, was simply unforgivable. So Lupus Regina, being the fastest being of the room, not including the Supreme, immediately rushed to the side of Naruto. Before the glove touched the floor, she already had it in her hands, offering it to Naruto like a knight offering a sword to his king, with a knee in the ground and a head down. Being a wolf, she could smell better than anyone in the room. Right now Lupus Regina struggled with all her strength not to put the object on her snout to smell it until her lungs explode for too much air in them. Even now, so far away and close to his nose, Lupus Regina could smell the sweet essence of his master's sweat. Naruto paid no attention to the action of Lupus Regina, continued to move towards Solution, who could not keep the look with his eyes, and his expression was one of fear, nervousness, and a little excitement. He stood in front of her. The silence in the throne room was deadly and terrifying. Naruto was even taller than Sebastian by at least one head. Solution was lower than him. Naruto, with an almost shaking hand, slowly brought his hand to Solution's face. When his bare fingers touched Solution's face, Naruto was stunned by how soft he was, and he realized that it was like touching a marshmallow or gelatin. Without really thinking about it, Naruto put more force in his fingers. Much to his surprise, they began to sink into Solution's cheek. "She's a slime," was Naruto's surprised thoughts. Solution's mind had faded since his creator put his hand on her cheek, and when he sank his fingers on his cheek, Solution had to use every ounce of his willpower not to faint from the ecstasy she was feeling. Right now, his hand was warm against her cheek, and the 5 fingers of his creator felt as if they injected his dragon fire directly into her. It was the most pleasurable sensation she had ever felt. Also, when she saw the face of pure envy of Albedo and his sister's maids, her day only became better. Naruto pulled out his fingers and withdrew his hand from Solution. His mind was racing 1,000 times an hour. Could be? The most logical answer was that somehow, and Naruto thought everything had become real for some reason. Without thinking, he decided to use something of his new strange power that was not chakra. He decided to use it as if trying to enter Sennin mode, closed his eyes, and then by pure will sent what would be described as a sonar. Much to his joy, he could feel the whole tomb together with its inhabitants, and he knew that they could feel him back at that moment. He went further, just outside Nazarick, and then he frowned. Nazarick was located in the world of Elfheim, in Yggdrasil, particularly in a swamp. But now outside it was snowing. There was snow, and that sincerely worried to Naruto. If everything became real, who says we could not have transported to another place? Even out of Yggdrasil he had to be careful. Plus he had to send someone to explore outside. He don't wanted to go. There were things he wanted to do and try inside Nazarick right now. Then his eyes looked Sebastian. He would be the best to go, and take a look. 100-level guardian was more than opponent for anyone. This is very disturbing, he said loudly and solemnly. Something is not right here. Those present who had been affected by the presence of their dragon master did not answer. They listened to him, but they were all simply too shocked to speak, and they were sure that everyone in Nazarick had felt the absolute presence of their dragon lord. Surely everyone in Nazarick was in shock. Naruto had never bothered to call him Tian, and he was not going to start now. Hearing his name out of the mouth of his master, Sebas woke up. Naruto-sama? He got on one knee in front of him immediately. Naruto was surprised by such obedience shown. Go out of the grave and explore for about a kilometer, no further. If you find someone, invite him, her or it to come here. Do you understand? Sebas began to walk towards the double doors quietly. He could not run here in the throne room. That would only be a disrespect for the supreme beings. Now Naruto looked at Yuri Alpha. When Sebas was not present, she was the leader of the Pleiades by default. Yuri-chan, please tell all the guardians that there will be a meeting in the 4th floor, in the Coliseum. Do not worry about Mare and Aura. I'll be there and inform them. Yuri's pale skin turned a little pink and his glasses seemed to fall out of place momentarily. Hi, Naruto-sama. Yuri stood up. Come on was a simple order, but all the Pleiades followed at once. Naruto-sama. A sweet and playful voice caught Naruto's attention. Much to his surprise, Lupus Regina was beside him on one knee holding his glove that he had removed. Lupus Regina was looking at him with lost puppy eyes. Such a cute doggy must surely be unfair. You can keep it. Luchan came out more like a question, but that seemed to make the day to Lupus Regina. Thank you so much, Naruto-sama. Lupus Regina said cheerfully, just to run to where her sisters were. Yuri seemed ready to whip her for running. Naruto did not know what he had done to make her so happy. When everyone left the room, he was going to return to sit on the throne. But he realized that Albedo was still there, seeing her directly. Her body moving like a worm. Her thighs were touching themselves. Besides, are those hearts in her eyes? Then Naruto saw that over her white dress, Albedo's nipples were marked as if they were hard. At that moment something in him inside of him clicked. He felt as if in an instant an emotion invaded him. He was seeing the body of Albedo as if it were the 8th wonder of the world. His perfect neck, his perfect breasts, his perfect arched back, his perfect glutes, his perfect thighs, his perfect feet, everything in her was perfect. Not only that, her mind began race and think of the Pleiades in each of them. Solution, CZ2, Nabaril, Yuri, even Antoma. They were all beauties and he wanted them all. Naruto stepped forward. Albedo was in front of him. His lust was uncontrollable. He needed to violate that perfect body of her. He had to make her scream for forgiveness and ecstasy. She needed to put her seed inside of her to get her pregnant. Naruto planned to do it right now. It was impossible to wait more. Nothing in the world was more important. When his foot touched the ground and he was already on it, Albedo, who was on the verge of faint by the fact that she had literally felt his master when he did whatever he had done, Albedo barely restrained herself from jumping against her master and recreating the scene of Ika Ika Deluxe when the witch takes the hero against his will and then makes him obey each of her commands. Then his master, who until just a few moments ago was meters away from her, appeared in front of her only to take her close to him. Albedo's brain had to restart from an overload. The situation had been too fast for her. Her little hands began to explore his huge chest. She felt that her breasts grew warmer because of the fact that they were stuck against his beloved master. Albedo, being a succubus, was able to literally smell when someone was sexually aroused. And now his master reeked to want to take her. Just to think of it, Albedo felt an ecstasy like no other. She felt like his master's hand was resting on his gluteus, and then squeezed it almost as if he wanted to tear it off. It was painful. But for her it was just a word that meant pleasure. Because that was what right now Albedo felt, pain that was extremely pleasurable. She wanted to be taken by his master right now. Albedo's throat loosened. For her was a scream of complete pleasure. But for Naruto it was not. It sounded like someone was feeling pain. That sound was all it took to wake him from his trance. His lust was uncontrollable. But his concern for the people he loved was even greater. He realized that his hand was on Albedo's gluteus. He immediately released it. I'm so sorry, Albedo. Naruto was going to continue apologizing. Albedo responded immediately, No, Naruto-sama. Never use those words in me again. I albedo like everything and everyone in Nazarick belongs to you. You can do what you want with me. With us, I am yours. Naruto was surprised by the devotion of albedo. He realized that every word out of her mouth said was what she really feel it. I see. I'm still very sorry. Something seemed to possess me for a moment. Albedo frowned in confusion. Yes, Naruto-sama, you are a dragon characterized for bringing emotions to the extreme, especially lust. Albedo was imagined many things in her head. A certain orange book, where she replaced the main characters, the hero and heroine by Naruto-sama and albedo. My race. Naruto realized at that moment that he was no longer just human. Now he was a dragon man, and that Yggdrasil really had come true. Oh, now that I think about it. I never told Yuri-chan the time I wanted the guards gathered in the Coliseum. Albedo, please correct this and inform them that we'll meet in an hour. Of course, Naruto-sama. Albedo returned to his usual professional self. But in her mind she kept thinking of things and how she would let the news fall to some annoying vampire brat. Her master had touched her. She even had evidence. She was sure that her master's hand had left a huge red mark on her gluteus. Naruto looked closely at his finger, in particular the ring on his finger. It was the ring of the guild that allowed you to teleport to any place in the guild. Without much thought, he active. He was surprised that it worked, because a black miasma appeared in front of him. Wide out, really thinking about it, he got in. When Naruto came out of the black mist, he was still very surprised that Yggdrasil's mechanics were currently working. His mind still did not fully understand if this was really happening. A part of him still believed it did not. At any moment he would open his eyes and would lie again in his bed. But another part of him, the one who felt the strange power that was not chakra running through his now powerful body, told him that that was not possible. Besides, everything felt too real. The small incident with albedo only made him more convinced than this war really happening. The tunnel where he was walking, dimly lit by torches placed in strategic places, was one of the many entrances to the 6th floor Coliseum. Naruto could already see the light at the end of the tunnel, so he kept walking. Right now there was no point in continuing to think about if this become real or no. For somebody like him it really didn't matter in the end. When Naruto left the tunnel his head quickly rose. The night full of stars looked even more beautiful than when Naruto came to admire it before. It was as if it were alive. The Coliseum was made in the image of the Roman Coliseum. Naruto never saw it in person but had seen pictures of it. Although his Coliseum was not missing a piece or looked old. Naruto walked until he was in the middle of the huge Coliseum, admiring what he could in the process. Naruto-sama! A joyful cry was heard. Naruto watched as a small person jumped from the balcony, landing with grace and lifting almost nothing from the sandy floor. Aura. Just by saying her name it seemed that Aura had the best day ever. Aura Bellafira was small, dark-skinned, different color eyes, one blue and the other green, wearing a white suit, short blonde hair. Generally Aura was a cute little girl. Sorry if I interrupt you, Aura, Naruto said, looking directly at her with his eye behind his mask. No, Naruto-sama. My time and all my being is only yours. She shouted with devotion. Just so a vein formed in her forehead. It seemed she was ready to hit someone. Mary. Naruto-sama is here, come down now. Aura seemed ready to cast smoke through her ears. And it was no wonder his lord was here, and his brother seemed to have no respect. See coming once, and a timid, fragile voice was heard behind the stage, accompanied by faster steps. From the entrance of the box appeared the twin of Aura. Mare Bellafira was exactly like his sister. Only unlike her, Mare wore a skirt instead of a pair of pants, which made him look like a girl. No, the correct term would be trap. Bokubo Kukigama was a Lalakona and Shotokona at the same time, a very rare combination. Pero Rancino's sister was an admirer of small bodies. Mare ran to Naruto and Aura, occasionally pausing to lower her white skirt in an attempt to cover herself. Yes, definitely Mare is a boy. When Naruto first saw the Bokubo Kukigama twins, and she told him that her twins were a girl and a boy, Naruto did not believe her since both looked pretty asexual. Mare could pass for a woman and Aura could pass as a man. But now that Naruto could see a bundle under Mare's skirt, he was sure he was man. Naruto wondered if Mare really liked women's clothing. Anyway, a trap is a trap. Naruto-sama! Mare screamed happily, moving his hand from side to side. At the same time he smiled, and that same smile seemed to bring sparks around his face that only made Mare look more beautiful. His sweet voice could melt an iceberg. Naruto had to suppress a bloody mucus that threatened to come out of his nose. The beast trap is in all of us. always ready to take control. The twins were happy that their master came to visit them, although it was not uncommon for their master to come and sit under a tree and look at the sky for hours as if he was lost in his memories. Of course, both were ready to protect him and punish anyone who dares to interrupt what he seemed to enjoy much. Just to see him sitting there, even Aura, who was an extremely hyperactive person, would be quiet just to be able to see his master. Mare, when Naruto-sama is here you have to go down to meet him immediately, Aura told her brother. She was a little upset with him right now. But Wenshin Mare preferred to remain silent when she saw the look her sister gave him. He meant that the supreme beings had created those stairs to be used. If they did not use them, it would be disrespectful to them. Mare knew that Blue Planet Sama had put much of his time into doing them together with the whole 6th floor. Aura began to scold him. Mare just tried to calm her down. Naruto smiled at the interaction of the two. It was obvious that the two loved each other like twins. Naruto sat in lotus form in front of the two. No one seemed to notice it because they were still arguing. They did not notice it until the two were quiet and frozen in their positions when Naruto pat their heads with his hand that did not have his glove. The touch to both was unexpected, but both felt the warm hand of his master stirring their hair. Both felt the same indescribable sensation as when his master made everyone in Nazarick feel their absolute presence inside the grave not long ago. The Supreme Being was taller than the two of them, so with their embarrassed faces they looked into the eyes of his master, while behind the mask his eye seemed to have a smile, which made both of them smile too. It was then that they noticed that his master's hand did not have his typical glove on. It was only his beautiful skin that touched their heads and stirred their hair. Naruto-sama! They both screamed at the same time, "SS your glove!" Their faces of horror and even the babbling was equal and perfectly coordinated. Aura did not know what to think. She had never seen him without it. Not that it bothered her 1,000 times better to see her master without the glove, but at the same time a feeling of anger invaded her. She thought that maybe someone had taken it, in other words they had stolen the Supreme Being. Unacceptable, unforgivable, unacceptable, unforgivable. Mare kept repeating those words in his head. Who had been the beast that had taken something from of the Supreme Being? Naruto looked at his hand and then back at them. He lifted his shoulders. "I take it off and I gave it to Lupusugina," Naruto said. The hearts of Aura and Mare burned with envy, as they wondered what had made that sack of fleas for the Supreme Being to give him such an invaluable article. "Oh, by the way, there is going to be a meeting here, Aura, Mare. All the guardians will be here." Naruto-sama, will she be here too?" Aura asked irritably. "She?" Naruto tough. This was interesting to know for Naruto. Aura had shown him with only those words that there was someone in Nazarick who she did not like it. It meant that the tomb worked as a society. I wonder how everyone got along with everyone at that moment. Naruto cursed himself for not paying more attention to Tabula and his enormous descriptions of when he created the history of the members of the tomb. "Oh!" Mare exclaimed, and her eyes brightened. That's the staff of Ain's Ulugaun." Mare almost got on her knees and cried. He did not deserve to be in the presence of such an item, and his master wielded it right now. He was simply not worthy to be in the presence of such supreme combination. "Ha ha ha! This is..." Naruto lifted the staff. It seemed to gain a golden glow and aura around it. Mare and Aura used everything on them not to fall to their knees. I have no idea how long it took to complete it so far. Naruto remembers that each member contributed something invaluable to the staff. Each of us had to look for an item that was powerful, or incredibly rare. Naruto thought that maybe they would both listen as how Bokubo Kokugama gathered one of the gems that now rested in one of the mouths of one of the dragons. This gem, Naruto pointed to a red gem. Bokubo Kokugama reunited it after defeating alone a nest of powerful familiars. LVL 19. Aura and Mare sighed in shock as they heard what their creator did. Naruto remembered that Bokubo Kokugama had been complaining all week that his stockpiles of potions had been severely depleted. To get a rare item that could invoke one of those LVL 19 familiars so you can control it until is defeated, the item had a low chance of being dropped by an enemy. If you had more players helping you, those chances were reduced even more. So she did it alone so that she had better chances to get it. Naruto tell them that. Aura and Mare listened like a couple of children, and that was what an adult seemed to tell a story to a couple of children. The blissful faces of Aura and Mare made Naruto's lonely heart feel warm. A black hole that looked more like an elongated oval appeared in the middle of the Coliseum. Out of the hole came a pale silver-haired woman with red eyes, a black gothic dress and red stripes. holding a black umbrella in her hands, with the elegance that even a princess would have problems imitating. She had a smile full of confidence in her beautiful face. She was simply elegance at its best. She was Shaltear Bloodfallen, a true vampire. But all her elegance was completely destroyed when her eyes saw Naruto. Her face turned into one of happiness. She threw his umbrella to the ground and began to run towards Naruto with her hands ready to wrap him in a hug. Naruto could not help but be infected by Shaltear's happiness. So even though he was still sitting, he held out his arms to take her when she crashed against him. Although Naruto saw the huge bust of Shaltear that moved every time she took a step, there was only a bit of lust when Naruto saw her bust. It was much more confusion than anything. Since when does she have that size? Shaltear was created in the image of a Gothic Lolita, a flat one in words of Pero Roncino. In addition to that, Naruto could not avoid to remember that he never saw Shaltear with that size of bust. Oh well, I guess I've been looking bad all this time. Although Naruto liked Shaltear more when he looked flat. Shaltear crashed into Naruto. Naruto-sama! Shout happily. Her breasts felt a little strange against his chest. Naruto was surprised when Shaltear weighed much more than she looked. Much more. Then he remembered that the true form of Shaltear was more like a monster of frightening appearance. Ha ha ha. Hello Shaltear, are you feeling well today? The happiness of Shaltear was contagious to him. Each time he became more and more happy that perhaps his beloved tomb had really come to life. So without thinking, Naruto hugged Shaltear, taking comfort of her cold body since she was an undead. Shaltear Bloodfallen, a true vampire created by Pero Roncino, one of the 42 supreme beings of the tomb of Nazarick, was now extremely happy with the arms of the last and noblest of the supreme beings who stayed with her until the end and not abandoned her. Her master's arms were warm. If Naruto could see Shaltear's face right now, he would not know what face to put. Shaltear's face was red as well as she totally buried her face in his master's neck. She's starting to breathe as if her life depended on it, which does not depend on, because she is already dead. But right now she made it as if her undead life depended on it. Shaltear was a vampire that mostly diet consisted of blood. That did not mean she could not consume other things like human flesh or human brains. In fact, she enjoys them very much. But mostly she consumes blood of any creature, how have it humans, elves, dwarves, demons, in general any being that has blood. But for vampires, dragon blood is by far the most exquisite thing they can try. Oh Naruto-sama, my only master, Naruto-sama. In the lore of Yggdrasil, the first vampire, or the real vampire, defeated a dragon, and then drank all his blood and never thirst for the vital liquid again. Obviously in Yggdrasil, dragons are beings on par with most of the higher gods or lowest demons, so it was no small feat to defeat a dragon, nevertheless alone. Shaltear had never consumed dragon blood, but the last of the supreme beings was one. Her greatest dream and desire of Shaltear was to consume his blood while having sex in a feast of blood and gore, where she and his beloved master would be covered with blood and their own fluids as they make love all the beautiful night and all detestable day. Maybe while their vampire wives see them and they indulge all their pleasures and whims. So Shaltear was now doing the closest thing to her dream, and that was to smell his master. The warm laughter that came out of his mask made her shivering. That only made better the whole situation right now. Shaltear squeezed just a little more her body against his body. To his surprise and pleasure, Naruto did the same. Shaltear's eyes roll out of her head. She was about to faint right now. On the other side, Aura saw and knew what Shaltear was doing. Leave Naruto-sama. Shaltear. Aura was irritated. Shaltear interrupted them when his master was talking about the achievements of her creator. Besides, you do know that instant teletransportations are forbidden inside the home of the supreme beings. You dare to break the rules of the supreme beings? Normally Aura would never act like that, but this was Shaltear. It was different. Shaltear regained her normal princess-like composure. Chibi, how dare you humiliating me in front of my master, she thought irritably. Era Chibielf, you should not be here, this is only for adults. TTW We're 74, Mare said sheepishly. Neither Aura nor Shaltear paid him any attention. Aura really got annoyed with the chibi comment. Aura smirked maliciously. Fake tits. Guh. Fake, I see, thought Naruto. That explains everything. Shaltear and Aura began to argue, throwing insults at each other. Shaltear called little girl and Aura said reeked of dead flesh. Naruto saw them curious. It was like seeing again Bokubo Kukugama and Pero Roncino, who were sister and brother, discuss. You are in front of our master, stop your stupidity, or else I make you a huge being of at least 2.5 feet, walking on 4 legs, several eyes on his head, pale blue, was a huge insect. His race was known as Lord Vernon. His name was Kosaido's guardian of the frozen hell, the 5th floor of Nazarick. Aura and Shaltear stopped but glare at each other. Bullshit and fake, Naruto thought with relief. It seemed that the two bully each other but knew when to stop. That was good. Turning to see the huge insect lord, Naruto speak jovial and very happy to see Kosaido's. Oh, Kosaido's, you came, friend. Kosaido's was an insect warrior. Insects are quite popular to choose the way of the Bushido. Naruto could not help but feel intimidated by the huge Lord Vernon. Kosaido's carried a huge spear in one of his hands, also had a sheath full of katanas on his hip, or what Naruto supposed it was a hip. The spear that looked like was ready to destroy the floor every time he walked, and every time he spoke cold air came out of his mouth. Kosaido's had a passive ability. His icy aura hurt his opponents over time. Kosaido stood without knowing what to do when he heard the word friend of the noblest of the supreme beings and his master. I do not deserve such words, much less deserve to be his friend. Naruto-sama, Kosaido's could not stutter. But if he could, he would be blushing and stutter right now. Ha ha ha, you look great, Kosaido's. How have you been? It was good that Naruto wore a mask or everyone would see his blush. The words of Kosaido's were truly sincere. Very well, Naruto-sama, Naruto-sama, he is so kind, worrying by this insignificant. Kosaido's thought reverently, a little boring. No invader has come. Yes, there has been no invasion for a long time. Albedo, Demiurge are already here. Next to Albedo, there was a man around 1.70 meters, dressed in a British suit orange with white lines. Naruto approved the color, and that was why he had helped Albert to create Demiurge. He was a demon known as Imp, long ears, tan skin and a huge silver tail behind him, plus a pair of huge circular glasses covering his sharp eyes. Demiurge bowed to Naruto. Of course, Naruto-sama will be there when you order it. His voice was like sugar. Naruto immediately remembered that Demiurge had a passive ability that could control low-level creatures. He knew it, but hearing it was completely different. I see, Demiurge. Keep up the good work. Then Naruto saw the predatory smile of Demiurge. Ha ha ha, could not help but think that Albert would feel proud of his creation. Naruto-sama, I do not see all the guards are gathered, Demiurge said sweetly. He would never dare to hurt a member of Nazarick, unless they betrayed the supreme beings. But this behavior was unacceptable even if they were other guardians. Naruto raised his shoulders without giving much importance. They have specific roles. Moving them from their place would only cost us resources. The guards nodded. In addition, Naruto got up and began to dust off. The guards looked anxious. That dust should never have touched it. Besides, maids should be cleaning it. The supreme being should not do such things that are far below him. We are in an emergency situation. Kosaido's wanted to know what was happening. He was a little worried. He was like always faithfully in his job, taking care that no one will disturb the tranquility of the home of the supreme beings. Then he felt the presence of his master, and then his friend Narbro Gama of the battle maids come to his floor to telling him that there was a meeting called by the last of the supreme beings. Even my friend moved to the first floor. So it is. Shaltear screamed. It seemed to be constipated. Not only her aura and albedo were also constipated, and my PP partner, I mean. My companion is protecting the floor one while I'm not there. Aura at this point was green and albedo nodded quickly. Naruto frowned at them. Kyuhoku is Shaltear's companion guardian. The guardians were divided into two. There were the floor guardians and the guardians who were subordinate to the floor guardians. If I remember correctly, the Lord of Terror is a giant cockroach. All offer your loyalty to the Supreme Being, albedo said. The guards stood on one knee in front of Naruto with albedo in front, forming a line. Shaltear stepped forward. The guardiana of the first, second and third floor bows to the Supreme with a knee on the floor, a hand on the chest and looking the ground. Shaltear was the perfect princess. Kosaido stepped forward. The guardian of the fifth floor bows before the Supreme, simple but implied his complete loyalty. Now the twins were next. The guardian of the sixth floor Ora Bella Fiora bows to the Supreme. The guardian of the sixth mare Bella Fiora bows to the Supreme. They both had small smiles on their faces. Demiurge bowed elegantly. The guardian of the seventh floor bows before the Supreme. The supervisor of the guardians albedo bows to the Supreme slowly and elegantly. The perfect subordinate, except for the guardian of the fourth floor Gargantua and the guardian of the eighth floor Victim. We are all gathered. Please give us orders. We would pierce ice and fire for our master. Naruto was silent. He did not know what to say. He was quite surprised at what he had just heard. I am the supreme being, I suppose, and although Naruto was quite surprised at the same time, could not avoid thinking that they looked very cool right now. Albedo was about to affirm her loyalty and that of others as they had practiced before coming here. But immediately she was silent when she heard the laughter of the noblest of the supreme beings. It was not a mocking laugh but a fun and for himself. I see, that was very cool. Were you practicing it? Or did everything come out as if it were natural? The guardians of course were pleased that their master liked what they had been practicing a little before coming to pay their respects to their master. Albedo was about to respond. It does not really matter. Naruto really was happy. As always, one thing ended and another started for him. Right now these guardians were the crystallization of the dreams of him and his friends. In this his beloved home, Naruto felt himself again like when he was a genin in Konoha, with an impulse to protect his beloved home. Guardians, you are the best. Now our home has been involved in a strange phenomenon. Did any of you feel something out of place on your floors? Albedo turned to see the others. Seeing that no one answered, we have not seen anything strange. However, I would like to check the floors 8 and 9, Naruto-sama. Naruto nodded. Take care of it then, Albedo. Now our home is or was located in a swamp. But when I felt the tomb I realized that there was snow outside. The guardians felt shivers just thinking when their master felt Nazarick. They all felt it too. It had been incredible and a different experience for each of them and the other members of the tomb. Please, Naruto-sama, give me the responsibility to explore the outside in your name. Shaltear was eager, as everyone else, to show how useful was to his master. It will not be necessary, Shal-chan. Naruto thought he saw a strong spasm in Shaltear as the nickname passed through her. But he ignored it. I sent Seabass to investigate. He should be arriving at any moment. None but Albedo was able to avoid having a look of surprise when they heard that one of the most powerful beings in Nazarick had been sent to a simple reconnaissance mission. As an invocation was made, a tall man dressed as a butler appeared, walking with a face without expression. Seabass walked until he was at the level of the other guardians. Seabass, welcome back. For a moment Seabass lost his composure at the warm welcome, but quickly returned to his usual self. Explain everything. Yes, Naruto-sama. Seabass rose. There is no human or humanoid live in a kilometer. Only small creatures and dead trees. It is snowing and it is night, Naruto-sama. Naruto put a hand to his chin, only touching his mask. I see. It must have been my imagination when I felt that. Naruto thought he had felt a huge structure. His sonar did not reach fully up in it, or know how long it was. It must have been my imagination. But I noticed two strange things, Naruto-sama. The first was a tree. It had a face engraved on it. Also it appeared to be crying blood. Naruto wrinkled his face under his mask. Did you feel some kind of magic in it? Hi, a little, almost nothing. As if it had existed for a long time. The magic in that tree is exhausted. But there is still a bit, Naruto-sama. How strange, trees with faces. There were none of those in Yggdrasil unless it was an Ent, but Seabass would have recognized one right away. In addition to that, the Ents were extremely aggressive with everyone. Besides crying blood through their eyes, the mind of Naruto clicked. How bad, he whispered. The elves could create trees to help them in combat. As an undead can invoke other undead to help them. Exist many and several undead with different kind of supports. The trees of the elves are the same. It was a sentinel. Something like the security cameras we have on the 9th floor. Immediately everyone tensed. Seabass on his part was about to start banging on the ground for such silly oversight. That tree had probably noticed or recorded him. I am a failure, he thought bitterly. The first time the Supreme Being sent him on a mission of exploration out of Nazarick, and all he do was endanger the home of the Supreme Beings. Naruto literally smelled Seabass's stress. Seabass was prepared to die for his carelessness. He did not even close his eyes. He simply looked at the Supreme Being who did not abandon him and stayed with him. His life was his. Besides, after such failure no punishment would be enough but death. I have to report the huge wall before Naruto-sama finishes me. Seabass was going to speak again, but the words died in his mouth before they left. Naruto put his hand in Seabass' head and began to stir his hair. A strange scene, as Seabass was not a child. Relax, Seabass. Maybe many of them looked like adults with bodies of professional athletes, and sculpted by gods. But Naruto could not help but think that they were just children who had just awakened from a long dream. Simple words, but Seabass was buried them in his heart. And although they did not completely wash away the immense shame he felt, it was still enough to know that his master had forgiven him. Thank you very much, Naruto-sama. What was the second thing you wanted to report? A wall, Naruto-sama. A wall that extends from coast to coast, made of ice and magic. Naruto had a lot to think about that. A gigantic wall of magic. Naruto could only wonder what they intended to keep out, and on which side was his home. I see. Excellent, Seabass, you did it well. Seabass bowed. Well, please, Guardians, I want all of you to share constant communication between you and your subordinates, and be more alert. Demiurge and Albedo will be the leaders. Both are smarter than any of us, so please take care of it. I do not deserve such words from you, Naruto-sama. I will do my duties to the best of my ability, Demiurge said with a smile. None of the other guards had to complain. Everyone in the tomb knew that Demiurge was the military and strategic genius only beneath the supreme beings, and Albedo was highly intelligent alongside Demiurge. Naruto had to get this out of his chest, so he walked up some stairs. Now he was looking at the guardians severely. They still had their heads down, and in one knee. I want you to be honest. For the first time the guardians listened to the serious voice of his master. It must be incredibly important, since his voice was usually jovial and playful, almost like a child, so they used every gray matter in their brains to answer whatever the Supreme asked. First, you, Shaltear, what kind of person do you think I am? The most beautiful being. The stars in the sky pale in front of you. The man whom I love with all my blood. There was no one more beautiful than his master, Kosaitos. More powerful and strong than any of us. Kosaitos really thought there was no one else stronger now. Aura, reflective and compassionate. Mare, the most kind. Both twins could not have had a higher opinion of their master. Demiurge, a perfect being, quick to make decisions and to act. For Demiurge there was none more intelligent than his master. Seabass, the being who brought us all together, kind and compassionate, who stayed with us until the end and continued to fight at our side. Albedo, the most noble and supreme of the supreme beings, the man I love and the best writer of all existence. A dead silence fell over the Coliseum. Naruto was a little stupefied to hear everyone's opinion, but quickly his stupefaction turned into joy. This was his home, these were his friends, this tomb and all his inhabitants were his family, his, only for him. So Naruto could not help but laugh. The entire Coliseum echoed with his laughter. A golden/orange aura began to surround him, and he continued to laugh with happiness. I see, Guardians, obviously these are your true feelings. I appreciate them a lot. Maybe I visit each of you in the future. How am I going to do with everyone in my home? Please do not overdo it. Demiurge, Albedo, I trust you are home, said Naruto while activated his ring again and entered the portal. It had been several minutes since Naruto had left the Coliseum via teleportation, but the guardians who had remained behind in the Coliseum were still in the exact same position they were when Naruto was present, with one knee and his gaze on the ground. Shaltear, Kosaitos, Aura, Mare, Demiurge, Seabass and Albedo could not move. They were too shocked to do so. Finally more minutes passed and Mare was the first to speak. Wow, I indeed do not know what to feel. Mare seemed to break the tension. All the other guardians except for Shaltear rose. That's right, Naruto-sama is amazing. He is. It was weird to hear Aura stutter, but she had said something that everyone thought different. Albedo looked up at the sky, his heart pounding. That is why I call him the noblest of supreme beings. Naruto-sama has always been different even among the supreme beings. Demiurge had a smile on his face. Mare also had a smile. Unlike the other supreme beings, Naruto-sama, he has an aura very different from the others supreme beings. Kosaitos spoke. The guards nodded in unison. Almost all the supreme beings had an aura that made you feel overwhelmed, difficult to breathe around them, terrifying. It was like feeling that the deepest darkness took you and would not let you go. Plus you would suffer a terrible death if you challenged them. In a few words, it was scary. But Naruto did not make them feel that way. Being close to him was comfort and warmth. You wanted to be with him. His aura made you feel welcome. It was like a gigantic ball of joy that contagiously with the same emotion. It was terrifying. Then I retire. As the personal butler of Naruto-sama, is normal that I am next to him, said Seabass, walking towards the tunnel of the Coliseum. Albedo have a smile. Of course, Seabastian. Remember to take care of everything he need and do not be rude. Also inform me immediately if Naruto-sama summon me to his chambers. Tell him I would take some time to prepare myself for him. Albedo both hands in his cheeks. But if Naruto-sama want me to do it like this, I have no problem. My body is always ready for him. Of course, Albedo-sama. Seabass disappeared into the darkness of the tunnel. Shaltear Demiurge looked strangely at the vampire who was still in the same position. What is the matter with you? Shaltear had closed her eyes. Good thing is that when I felt the warm aura of Naruto-sama hug me I could not help having an accident down there. A silence invaded the Coliseum. Everyone knew that Shaltear had more sexual fetishes than Nazarick. Bitch! Albedo screamed. Whoever how has not felt the same as I do, feeling the aura of my master should not really love him, Shaltear replied. Albedo gritted his teeth. I will be the one who in the end would stayed with my master. Both began to argue over who was to be the first wife of the supreme ruler of Nazarick. Does it really matter? Aura asked. I do not know, Mare said. I am very curious to see the results. Demiurge looked at Albedo and Shaltear with calculating eyes. Watch what you speak, Demiurge. You do not see that it only makes them fight. Aura did not see sense to the fights of the two. What are we going to do if in the end Naruto-sama decides to abandon us like the other supreme beings? Demiurge speak seriously. All heads were fired towards Demiurge immediately. Even Albedo and Shaltear stopped arguing. No, that's not gonna happen. Cosaidos, like all the others, had not really thought about if the last of the supreme beings decides to abandon them, what they were going to do then. Everyone were so accustomed to see the last of the supreme beings to walk around all Nazarick, always greeting them or staying on their floors while he was lost in his thoughts. They were happy just to look at him. But what if he finally decided to leave like the other supreme beings? Naruto-sama would never do anything as cruel as leaving us. Mare screamed with barely contained tears. We cannot even imagine what is going on in the head of Naruto-sama. Mare Demiurge genuinely felt bad to see the expression of pain of Mare. Albedo could not help but agree with Demiurge. The supreme ruler of Nazarick was unique even among the supreme beings. The others also had an expression of pain and distress, even Demiurge. But if Naruto-sama had an heir of his blood and flesh, who will ultimately inherit her father, as the right of a son to inherit her father, you would not swear allegiance to Naruto-sama heir? As if was Naruto-sama itself. That sends to blow the mind of all in the room, even of Demiurge that was saying it. That way of thinking is heresy. Cosaidos was angry. He screamed and his cold air became colder. We must serve Naruto-sama and protect him, so that Naruto-sama never leave us. But a part of Cosaidos knew that there was something strange when he saw his master lost in his thoughts, and he really wanted to be like a teacher to Naruto heir. I know you know there is something strange when you see Naruto-sama lost in his thoughts, Cosaidos. I know that everyone knows. They all remained silent. They all know that. It's like he is tired, and I do not mean like a normal one. Is like he is tired of fighting. Shaltear answered, her head down. Everyone already knew that. Exactly was the word that cut them all, even Demiurge. Now if Naruto-sama had an heir, perhaps he would not have to abandon us. But he could let Nazarick be ruled by her heir, while Naruto-sama retires and spends his days just enjoying his home, without having to worry about nothing more. Demiurge's words immediately lifted everyone's spirits. Demiurge is right, Albedo replied. There are plans to make. Everyone began to listen to Albedo's plan. Naruto woke up, but he did not open his eyes, yawning as he stretched his body as much as he could just lay back to the comfortable giant bed. Slowly he felt that the dreamland take him again, and he wanted to be take it. He wanted staying there asleep for the next several hundred, or maybe hundreds of thousands of years. Naruto also did not know that he could eat so much. Even by his standards, he had eaten a whole feast worthy for several kings. That is what he had been doing for the last 3 days, only ate and slept. Naruto really did not want to know what would happen if he allowed himself to be carried away by his anger. He would attack his family with only a momentary attack of anger. Naruto was not sure what would happen if he let himself be carried for his lust. The brief episode with Albedo was still in his head. Right now he was not sure if Mare would be safe from him if something similar happened. That thought made him suddenly lose sleep and appetite. Dragons surely take things to the extreme. Naruto got up, stretched his body again as he gave a long yawn. Besides carving his eyes, he thrust his hand into a black hole that appeared in front of him, taking his orange mask from it. This is incredible. Very useful was what he thought while putting his mask. He had been experimenting a little with his magic for the last 3 days, of course when he was not busy eating or sleeping. Naruto was a dragon, one of fire to be exact. There were dragons of various types and elements. Naruto had chosen to be of fire by the simple fact of honor his old village. He had flames from the coldest of red to the blues the hottest, and also the flames where all the colors were combined in one to become pure white. He was a magician because he used fire spells, of course, which also had subclasses that he had discovered exploring works derived from fire. He went to the huge double door as quiet as he could. That was because since they had come to this place his family had not left him alone, not even to go to the bathroom. Naruto was quite moved by how protective they were. But the third day had had enough, and after a long discussion they had agreed to leave him alone, at least on his room. Slowly he began to open the door, peered a little to see if there was someone standing guard on the other side. Much to his surprise there was no one in the other room. Naruto frowned when he saw a yellow pool in the corner on the other side. The maids, sea bass, and albedo were strict in cleaning, especially extremely strict when it was about the room of the supreme beings. Naruto was sure that they would never leave that stain there. Oh well, I suppose it's nothing, I'll lift it at some point. Feeling more confident, Naruto was no longer walking in small and quiet steps. He began to walk normally and with confidence until he reached the door to go to the 9th floor of Nazarick. Just as his hand went to the door handle, Naruto-sama, if you need more food, we can immediately bring it. Solution Epsilon Pendragon, proud creation of Naruto and sister of another creation of the Supreme Being, said. She had become liquid to remove a small stain in the room of its creator. Naruto would never have seen it even if his life depended on it. But for any member of Nazarick it was even unthinkable that any stain would foul the rooms of one of the 42 Supreme Beings, particularly the last and leader of the 42, and especially for Solution or a particular knight who was also created by Naruto. For them too, that stain that was in the room of his creator was worse than heresy. Naruto for his part was not expecting anyone, and with a justified fear towards any ghost he jumped like a frightened cat. Gaia! He screamed in fear. He did not have to spend a second when the doors of the room opened wide with Seabass and the battle maids Yuri, Luspus Regina, CZ2, Nabaril and Antoma entering the room with faces of fury by whoever has bothered his master, and not to speak of trying to attack him, and there was also fear in their expressions for the unthinkable fact that his master could be hurt. Naruto saw that it was only Solution. Ah, it's only you, Solution, you scared me. Ha 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 ha. At the same time he wondered where she had hidden. Solution did not know what to say. For a moment she was speechless. Of course she knew that his creator was afraid of ghosts just like her and her Onisama. So she just got on one knee. I'm so sorry, Naruto-sama. Relax, Soul-chan. Naruto-sama, are you ready for dinner? Asked Seabass. It's night. Although the offer of eating more was very tempting to Naruto, he did not want to take another 3 days of sleeping and eating. Later perhaps. Nah, he said simply. Naruto wanted to check something, so he approached one of the huge mirrors in his room. This one was his room. Naruto had personalized it. Like all the rooms of the Supreme Beings, it was like a luxury apartment. The only thing that differentiated this room from the others was its orange color that seemed to fill the room with life. When he looked at his reflection he could see his particular suit of Tobi. He had chosen it for the simple fact of remembering his death friend. Naruto decided at that moment to check one of the 2 subclasses that he had as a dragon human of fire. Naruto clapped both of his palms, making a sound that sounded throughout the room. Black glow, said the name of his magic. Naruto watched with satisfaction as his whole body was covered with red and black flames. When the flames were over, Naruto no longer had his Tobi outfit, but now he was covered in an armor complete gray, opaque and black. Was something strange because it was covered with spikes and a black layer that touched the floor, and in his hand rested a huge mace of war as huge as his entire arm. It's the Lord of the Rings Sauron's armor. Black glow basically changed all his stats and turned them into a warrior. He became extremely strong and resistant. A blow of Naruto's black glow could be as devastating as one of the famous Touch Me attacks. Of course the subclass came with his disadvantages, such as his very poor agility or extremely limited magic. This was the subclass that all dragons had. Naruto, being a fire dragon, represented the destructive force. Gaia glow represented earth dragons and made them almost invincible. The ice glow of ice dragons represented magic and even could create undead of high level, etc., etc. So Naruto looked pleased as one of his favorite classes worked. Come on, said Naruto. He knew that no matter what he did they were going to follow, like it or not. Naruto was going to the throne room. He came up with an idea of how to investigate beyond that huge wall of ice. The maids and Seabass nodded and followed Naruto respectfully. Passing through the corridors and rooms of Nazarick, Naruto moved his head from side to side. Now everything had become more vivid and beautiful. Naruto reached the throne room, frowned when he saw Albedo standing right next to the throne as usual. She had a huge smile that formed when she saw him. Naruto-sama! You are awake! Albedo looked sternly at Seabass and the maids. They should have warned that the Supreme Being had awakened and was make it to his throne. She would have made a ceremony for the fact that he would sit in his throne as legitimate lord and master of all Nazarick. Hello Albedo, well I suppose so. I have this crazy idea since we got here. But only so far implemented lies I was too busy sleeping and getting my belly about to explode or both. Naruto went up the stairs and sat on his throne, dropped all his weight on the throne unceremoniously. But those present had faces of pure satisfaction when they saw him sitting there. Naruto took out of his inventory a mirror that everyone in Yggdrasil had, one of the simplest but most useful objects of all. It was a mirror that just as a drone let you see the surroundings from the air and went as far as you wanted. It was very easy to hide from it, so it was not a broken item. Albedo could not help but marvel at such simple and brilliant idea. This was indeed the noblest and most intelligent of supreme beings. Besides the leader who brought take them to the absolute glory. Naruto began to use the mirror, passing that huge wall of ice. He could see the ruins of an old black castle. That confirmed that something lived on that side and wanted to keep something on this side. That was a bit worrisome since his home was on the other side of that wall. He kept going everything. It was a vast field full of snow and mostly dead or rotten things. Will anybody live there? He wondered. He had seen no signs of life anywhere. He kept going down south until the terrain changes to marshy. That was a good sign. It meant that it was almost out of the territory that covered the snow. It had already been 3 hours and Naruto began to lose interest. Even once or twice he had fallen asleep doing this, and his black glow had already disappeared, returning to his clothes of Toby. Only those 2 times were needed, so that Naruto had no idea to where it was already heading with the mirror. His eyes widened in shock when he finally saw structures clearly made of wood and straw, made by humans or at least intelligent beings. Ah well, I finally found people. It was what he screamed when he saw several people running from one place to another. They seemed to have some kind of party, or were playing. Immediately Albedo, Seabass and the maids began to applaud, praising their master, because he had managed to find disgusting humans. Congratulations Naruto-sama, said Seabass's serious voice. Naruto-sama! Albedo shouted in a voice full of admiration. Naruto's pink cheeks did not show up under the mask, but he was embarrassed anyway to hear such sincere applause and compliments. Naruto quickly returned to the mirror, using his hands to move closer and closer, until he suddenly stopped. And Naruto looked in shock as a man dressed in medieval mail chain that had an axe in his hand struck the axe into the man, severed his collarbone, and killing him. The now dead man released a young woman of no more than 15 or maybe 16 years. Naruto's shock could only increase when he saw the look and smile of the man who had killed the other man at seeing the young woman. It seemed that he had won his prize and was ready to enjoy it fully. The scream of horror of the young woman seeing what looked like her father, maybe her dead brother, made Naruto woke up from his shock. Quickly and without thinking, teletransport, he conjured a spell that would take him directly there. Naruto got into the black oval without hearing the screams of Albedo, Seabass or maids. Mina was a normal girl with a normal life. She was a simple peasant woman who lived in a quiet village near the sea, in the land in the riverlands. Mina was a simple-looking woman, long black hair, brown eyes, a face that did not have any distinctive mark or beauty. She was not very thin or very fat, besides having strong arms because she worked the field. She brought heavy buckets of water and sometimes fish when she was near the sea. She did not consider herself pretty. There was a time when the lord's wife from this particular land came to this village. Mina and her friends could only really see what a pretty woman was. The noble lady even smelled so nice. Mina did not know how to read or write, or had an ability to distinguish her from the rest of the men and women who lived peacefully in this village. Perhaps because she did not really know beyond a few miles outside her village. Mina liked it that way. She liked to live a peaceful life here. Occasionally one of the village boys tried to flirt with her, and she also did the same. The world outside the village is scary. That was what his father said, and after hearing what happened to his mother, Mina was in agreement with him. Her mother had been taken from this village and the arms of his father and her by a band of pirates who lived on some islands in the middle of the sea, a particular winter. Mina had only lived 2 in she entire life. Winter was hard, but the people in this town did not starve. They may be very poor because they do not have much money, but their village at least did not die of hunger. Every villager works and had food in their stomachs. But that did not speak for everyone in the world. His parents had told her stories of terrifying pirates who came, stole what they could, killed who they could, raped women of all ages, and even took boys from time to time. They took the women and called them salt wives. Mina's mother had become a salt wife. One of those pirates had taken her away from her. Mina only has certain memories of it because she was but a child to remember anything. She remembers standing still watching people move from side to side, shouting and fighting. The snow was red. There were bodies everywhere. Men, women, elders, boys and girls, they were everywhere. Mina was hypnotized to see how the fire in the houses seemed to dance with everyone. Mina did not see her mother again after that happened. His father had explained the situation to her when she was old enough to understand what had happened. Mina did not think much about those pirates. She thought it was only a one-time thing. They would never return to this quiet village to steal, murder and rape. How wrong she was. The day had begun normal, as she and her father had always got up early like all the villagers, to bring water from the river, to check the fields, the animals. The children were already running and playing around, until everyone began to retire to their houses to have breakfast. Mina had a bowl of bread soup, and even meat was still there when the village hunters killed a wild boar in the woods. She had a happy breakfast with her father, talking and laughing with him. As always, Mina thought this would be a normal day. Maybe tried to flirt with that particular boy of her age who had green eyes. It was time she tried to create her own family after all. It began with a few noises, then Mina began to hear screams of pain, fear, despair, and especially screams of excited men. There was also the particular noise that makes the wood when it is burning. At first she and her father had believed that it was only a fire. They were not rare and had killed several people in the village already. When her father opened the door to check, he immediately closed it, and had a particular pale face. Mina was about to ask until her father ran to her and raised her as when she was just a child. His father ran with her on his shoulders. Mina saw without knowing what to think as men with swords, axes, bows and lances killed and dragged the people around the village. It was like seeing a festival of deprivation. The bad ones laughed, and the innocent ones killed. There was not pity of anyone. It was not until her father threw her abruptly to the ground and heard him cry out pain that Mina realized that her father had dragged her into the woods. When Mina looked at her father, she did not know what to do. He was on the ground with his eyes open. A man had his foot in his chest and tried to take out his axe that was buried in his father. Mina was sure that his beloved father was dead. Then the man laughed and looked her eyes. "Hello, salt wife," the man said, showing his filthy yellow teeth in a smile. Mina's stomach squeezed painfully when she heard that. Mina knew she was not a beautiful woman, but right now this man was looking at her with such lust that not even all the boys and girls in her village combined could match. Mina began to scream for help as the man's hand yanked the top of her shirt, exposing her breasts. Her screams combined in desperation with the word help and pain as the man squeezed one of her nipples as if I wanted to tear it. At that moment Mina's hopes rose when she saw a figure behind her attacker. Maybe this other figure had come to help her, would take care of the pirate and get her out of here. "Oh, Brother Rick, you found a toy," said the figure behind his attacker. When she heard the word brother, Mina's hopes broke into 1,000 pieces. Now that Mina saw the newcomer well, he was dressed just like her attacker with a symbol of a sea beast Mina had heard was called octopus or kraken. Not only that, she had the head of a kind old lady in her hands who proceeded to throw to the ground as if it were nothing but trash. "Of course, if you say hello to my new salt wife, Rock Brother, she'll come with us." Rick's smile grew larger. "She will be a good wife of salt. She will give birth to many iron children. Look at her arms. She will give me many strong children. Proud born of iron, ha ha ha." Rick began to laugh in pleasure. At that moment Mina prayed with all her heart to the Mother of the Faith of the Seven, begging her to save her from this man. Mina's horror and tears were palpable on her face when she heard such words from Rick's mouth. She did not want to have children yet, not at least not the children of this horrible man who killed his father. "I do not understand how you can like that." Young Rock looked at Mina with disgust. "The elders are the best." His face turned red and seemed to feel pleasure only to imagine. "They scream in pain when you're inside them. Their dry hole just makes it better." She was really good. Rock pointed to the kind old woman's head. She had the perfect pussy, dry and wrinkled. "Ha ha ha ha." I think her heart stopped when I was done. Now it was Rick's turn to show disgust. His brother had the weirdest fetish he ever known. Whatever you say, he learned not to ask his brother questions, and it was not like he wanted to know anyway. Well, Rock, unless you want to look like a real man does to a woman, I recommend you to fuck off. Rock grunted and turned to leave. He had to find another wrinkled hole anyway. The last one did not leave him completely satisfied. Mina really did not know what to do now. There was only despair in her. Her destiny would be to be raped by this man. Then he would take her with him and make her his salt wife as they once did with her mother. Would give birth to countless babies until she could not have more, and then surely this man would murder her or maybe even some of her children. The world outside their village was truly horrible, and these men had brought those horrors with them. It was then that Mina saw the most incredible thing of her life, and the faces of the two men next to her could also say the same thing for the two of them. A blackish/purple oval appeared in front of the three. Inside the thing a hand covered with a black glove clung to one of the edges of the thing, then came out 1 foot. It had nails painted black and boots strong blue that did not cover part of their feet. Finally, and with a single movement, came out a figure. Mina, who was on the floor with tears in her eyes, had to look up to be able to make contact with the face of what had just come out of oval thing. Mina gasped, her hands in her mouth when she saw him. It was a man, blonde hair, a spiral orange mask that covered his face except for a small hole where his eye should be, plus a black coat with red clouds. He was taller than the men who were with her. Mina was sure that he was the tallest man she'd ever seen. No one did anything or said anything for who knows how long. Mina and the two pirates could not believe what they had just seen. It was simply unreal. He made a slight movement with his head, almost imperceptible. But no doubt the three knew that he turned in the direction of Mina's attacker. He raised his hand slowly. "Fireheart," said in a quiet voice followed by a snap of fingers. To Mina, once one of the hunters of the village taught her the inside of a wild boar. She knew, thanks to that occasion, where the organs of animals and humans were. She knew where the human heart was. So when he saw after the snap of fingers as the part where the heart of the so-called Rick burst into red flames, leaving a perfect hole in Rick's chest, Mina did not really know what to think. She had heard from Septon that preached the faith of the Seven that magic was but heresy of people who ate babies and sacrificed goats to pagan gods across the sea. Magic, that was what Mina whispered. Wow, Naruto said. His magic called Fireheart had worked. Maybe the name sounds a bit poetic, romantic even, but it was not the case of this particular magic that Naruto greatly appreciated. Unlike Momonga crushing heart that crushed the hearts of low-level enemies when he activated his magic and proceeded to close his fist, Naruto magic was similar. It worked on low-level enemies. He flicked his fingers and bound Fireheart literally burned the hearts of his enemies. Naruto knew these two guys were murderers and rapists. That's the head of an old woman. He doesn't want it to see that head. Now that one of them was dead, it would be best to kill the other two. Naruto began to think what spell he should use. It was obvious that these soldiers with the symbol of a squid on their mail's ropes were low-level enemies. Fireheart worked on one of them. Naruto ignored Rock completely. He was too busy thinking about the best way to kill him. For his part, Rock was afraid. His mind was in chaos and fear consumed him in droves. Rock Body took a step forward and held the axe in his hand tightly. Without thinking, Rock threw himself against the stranger with a scream of fear and fury. When the axe hit the stranger body, immediately Rock knew that something was not right. It was not because of the fact that his hands began to ache and immediately dropped the axe. It was because the head of the axe was destroyed. Besides that, he felt a terrible pain in his hands. What happened? He wondered in bewilderment. Naruto, seeing his face of confusion over the fact that his hands burn as if he had put them in the fire, cleared him. It is a passive ability. When someone attacks me, suffers a small fire damage. Normally it would not bother high-level enemies, but that clear is not your case. He. The laughter of the thing in front of him took Rock by surprise. He was terrified now. He prepared to get out of there as fast as he could, but could not go very far because on the sides of the thing now there was a knight in black armor with horns coming out of the helmet, and on the other side was a beautiful pale girl with silver hair and precious red eyes. Rock was paralyzed to see her. For a few moments his fear of the stranger left. The girl in front of him was beautiful. Rock did not like young girls. He preferred women their spring. He was disgusted of children. He disgusted even killing them. But right now in front of him was the woman more than he have ever seen. Her clothes were something that not even the richest of noble houses seemed to be able to buy. The girl smiled sweetly. The smile made Rock feel that everything would be fine. Her smile was warm, understanding, and only made her look even more beautiful than normal. Her mouth opened slightly. showing threads of saliva that connected from top to bottom. She used her tongue to wet her lips. The action made Rock feel embarrassed. He could not help but being embarrassed. But in an instant her celestial face became one of absolute anger and hatred towards him. "How dare you, disgusting pig, to touch my master? Filthy beast, know your place." Her voice was pure honey, but the poison was there. Gaya-wa. All heads headed toward the Horned Knight. On his hands had a halberd. "I will not forgive you. I will not forgive you. QT that you have touched my master. You will die." Albedo began to scream, very angry, walking towards the man coming from the Iron Islands. Naruto did not know, but he had left Nazarick in absolute chaos. After he disappeared immediately, Albedo called Demiurge, ordered him to take care of Nazarick along with Seabass. Albedo was the second in command after Naruto, and her word was law when he was not. Demiurge, although wanted to go, acceded a little reluctantly. Seabass the same with the Myads, especially Solution. Kosaidos moved to the outskirts of Nazarick and began to patrol the surroundings. Meanwhile, Albedo and Shaltear would go with their master. Shaltear was the only NPC that could open and close portals to her liking. Especially she was the only other than Naruto who could move so far with portals. "Wait, Albedo!" The sweet voice of Shaltear caused Albedo to stop. "You will surely agree that this disgusting beast deserves more than a quick death." Shaltear's smile returned to her face. "I know the woman who manages the torture room, and although she is disgusting, I assure you that she knows very well how to have fun with disgusting beasts." Naruto looked as if his brain was lighting up at the moment. "You're right, Shaltear. Take him to be interrogated. I'm sure no one will miss him." "Hey ye! Naruto-sama!" Shaltear spoke happily. His master gave her an order. Behind Rock appeared other of those ovals. Several women's hands began to take him from several sides of his body. Rock started moaning and tried to break free. But it was too late. The hands restrained him and were taking him to the oval. When Rock was fully inside, the oval disappeared, and no one see him ever again. Naruto turned his attention to the young woman in front of him. He slowly approached her. From his inventory he took a blanket and put it around her. By pure instinct Mina covered herself with the blanket, but she was still looking at the man in complete fear. Her mind right now did not understand what was happening. It was simply too much for her, so she stepped back in fear. Mina did not go very far as the long hand of the masked man took her head, and like her father when she was a little girl he began to caress her hair. "Calm down. I will not let anything happen to you, nor I would hurt you." Her fear was replaced with terror because she really believed that he would not hurt her, and he would take her out of this place. Her body moved towards him until it crashed with his chest. Mina could only feel more safe when he wrapped her in an embrace. He started to whisper nice things. Mina finally started to cry with relief. His laugh was so reassuring. He whispered something sarcastic, or a little joke to make her feel more calm. Mina was calm as if this never have happened. At their side Albedo and Shaltear watched as the dirty human was touched by his master. Not only that, but he had wrapped the little human with his own blanket. Right now that human was living the dream of anyone in Nazarick. That made them both burn in envy and wrath. But they refrained from doing anything because their master had done it, so they just stayed there, vowing revenge. Oju-san. Mina did not know what that meant, but it was clear he referring to her. "I have to go to the village. I have to help them. We have to help the others." Mina did not say anything. She did not want to go back to the village. But if the hero in front of her told her, then Mina would be strong for him. So she just nodded slightly. "Well, Albedo, Shaltear, let's go to the village." "Hi, Naruto-sama," they both said at the same time. Herald Drum of the noble house Drum in the Iron Islands was a proud Ironborn. He was devoted to the drowned god and not one of those weak Greenlanders' gods. His god said that Ironborn should conquer and plunder all, and then sing songs in glory. But now under the rule of Quellan Greyjoy, the Lord of Pike and Master of the Islands, men had seemed to forgotten the true tradition. Quellan tried to integrate the Iron Men with policies to make the islands look more like the Seven Kingdoms. Harold growled in disgust. He was the third son of Lord Drum, so there was not much for him to do in his home. He was too far from the line of succession of his house, and he was not kinslayer. The drowned god forbade him to kill family, and he obeyed his god, yet Harold wanted to prove to his father that he would be the best head of the Drum house. But how he should do it proved to his popel and family that he was worthy of Valerian's sword Red Rain. The Ironborn have long since not attacked any port seeking glory. Harold knew that was almost impossible. The Seven Kingdoms have had some stability for years. So to prove to his father that he should be the heir of his noble house, he would leave the islands to seek fortune elsewhere. He would accumulate wealth and create his own fleet of ships and corsairs that would terrorize Westeros and Essos alike. Then when he had the money, men and power, Harrow would return to claim what is his. Perhaps even remove that detestable family Greyjoy of the power in the islands. Only Quellin would be killed. He would leave alive the children of Quellin, Balan, Victarion and Euron. They were true Iron Men who dreamed of looting and glory. So Harrow stole a ship from his father with even the crew, promising them riches and salt wives, attacked a village near Seaguard controlled by those cowards from the Mallister house of this blasted Riverlands. Of course there was not much to plunder in terms of riches here. He had come to this village for food and other goods, as well as women who would keep his crew happy for a few days, until they could find true beautiful women rather than flat peasants who sometimes seemed look more like men than women. The sacking was over. Harrow was a little proud of his crew. They had done it well as true Iron Lords. He had gathered the men, women, children, and elders who had survived the plunder in the middle of the village square. He could see in the eyes of his men that they were not yet satisfied with the slaughter of this horrible village. So he thought it best to gather the survivors and then cut them into pieces to leave a message to all Westeros that Harold Drum of House Drum of the Iron Islands, future heir to House Drum and future king of Salt of the Iron Throne, had made history in this stinking village. His legend began right here. His thoughts of glory and conquest, and those of his men along with the cries of mercy of the villagers, stopped when he saw some stranger towards him. The tall man was wearing a silly mask, a knight in armor that would probably cost the same as a ship. Harrow would take that armor. If he could use it, he would use it. Only an armor of that quality could be worthy for him. The horns and the helmet added a touch of fear. Then there was a peasant with a face that anyone would forget. And then there was her, the most divine lady he has ever seen, a princess probably from a distant and unknown place. Silvery hair, precious red eyes that shone like sapphires, delicate features wherever your eyes are placed on her face or body. She was only a young lady right now, but soon she would become the most beautiful woman in the whole world if she did not already have that title. The drowned god blesses me Harold Drum was obviously. If not, why that woman would be here if she was not a gift from the drowned god himself. She should be in the most luxurious place in the world, with the pleasures, the jewels and all that this world could offer her. When the four were close enough to him and his men, Harrow made contact with the eyes of the beautiful woman in front of him. But immediately she looked away, as Harrow was not worth, he was garbage to her. She began to see the surroundings. Harrow felt anger. Her future wife could not be ignoring him that way. Clearly he would never dare to beat his wife for fear of ruining her beauty. But she still deserved a little lesson. "You, my future bride, come to the side of your husband," said Harrow with air of superiority and confidence. Shaltear ignored the pig. It could not be that this hairless ape had said those words to her. Surely the pig spoke to the stinking peasant beside his master. So she continued ignoring and taking care of her nails. She should be in perfect condition for when his master will summon her to his chambers. Shaltear beamed at the mere thought that finally his master will claim her, as he should have done already. Naruto chose that moment to speak. "Hello, Harrow." His men and villagers looked at the masked stranger. His voice had something that did not allow you to ignore him. "Excuse me, but I suppose you are the ones who attacked this village. If you leave now, I promise you that I will not hurt you, but if you don't, I do assure you that death will be too good compared to what my family intends to do to you," Naruto said, forming a smile with his eye in the style of his old sensei. Harold did not know whether to laugh at that moment, or kill him and take his wife and his new armor right now. Albedo and Shaltear could not help feel pure happiness, as well as tears threatening to get out of their eyes. Their master had called them family. Harold did not have time for these things. The Mallister would surely come here with several men at arms. He was not ready to face the yet, kill the idiot. "I want that armor in my ship, and if any of you touch my wife, I'll gut you where you stand." The Iron Men hastened to obey the command of their captain. Harold did not know, but Shaltear was too beautiful. She was a woman worth to murder even your father. Harold would have a riot before he even reached his ship. Of course, Harold and his men would never see the sun again. "Wait!" screamed Naruto. Harold smiled. Probably he was going to beg for his life. "I want to try something. Please, half of you not move. I just need a second," said Naruto, thinking of a particular spell he wanted to try. The men ignored him, wanted to have the beautiful lady in their arms already. It was at that moment that no one could move, and even some fell to the ground with tears in their eyes and a feeling of asphyxia invading them. Wa was the only thing Harold said when he saw hundreds of visions of his death, one worse than the other. Albedo was furious. When a supreme being gives you an order, you do it without hesitation. None of you animals even deserve to know his precious name. Everyone knew that the woman in the armor was referring to everyone from Harold, Mina, to the Ironborn and the peasants, adult or children alike. Ah, thank you, Albedo. Naruto smiled at Albedo. Albedo's face became one of total ecstasy. Do not mention Naruto-sama. His master had thanked her. She did not deserve it, of course. Well, Naruto raised both hands. Naruto had said not to move half of them. But the truth is that only needed one of them. He concentrated on very skinny man that was covered in blood. Bestia, he said. Not a second passed when a dragon's head came out from under the feet of the bloody skinny man, closing his jaws around him. The dragon and the bloody skinny were gone. There was only one black stain on the floor. There was no shouting or anything, and the silence became spectral. A single thought passed for all, and that was the word magic. That had been magic, the truth one. Harold swallowed the saliva that had been accumulating in his throat. I must have known it. The McGee of Essos wore strange clothes. I have to put him on my side, Harold thought. If he could put this man on his side, then he could perhaps conquer the whole world. That was nice. I suppose Naruto was planning to do another spell but did not want to traumatize the villagers, especially the children. Shaltear, take them to Nazarick as you did with the other one. A direct ticket to the torture room. We need information. Before Harold could begin with a convincing argument to get the sorcerer to join him, several pale arms surrounded him and covered his mouth as they dragged him to who knows where. The same happened to his men. Harold screamed. He groaned, bite and fought until the end, but the end was in vain. No one would ever see him again. When the men finally disappeared, Naruto looked at the villagers. Well, he smiled under his mask. You bunch are free to continue with your lives. Yay. I am very sorry about your people how are dead, but I wish I could talk to your leader. They are beautiful, don't you believe? Said Naruto, looking at the stars in the sky, lost in his memories, lying on a lonely hill, his arms behind his head, feeling the nice breeze. Albedo and Shaltear standing by. They were standing on guard to keep anyone from bothering their master during their favorite activity. Everyone in Nazarick knew that the last of the supreme beings loved to stay there for several hours, lost in his memories. Naruto had told both to take a seat next to him as well. They refused. Of course they did want to go nearer to their master, but his safety and comfort came first. You are more beautiful, Naruto-sama, Albedo said. Not even 1,000 stars could compare with your beauty, Naruto-sama, said Shaltear. A very Yukika gesture came out of his mouth. Now that I think about it, Albedo Naruto had been spinning this since coming to the village. But where do you sleep? He knew that many in Nazarick used those rings to not sleep, eat or feel tired. Naruto did not like those rings. He loved to eat and sleep. Albedo wide out her helmet, look at Naruto, genuinely curious. I do not have a room, Naruto-sama. I'm always in the throne room waiting for you. Naruto jumped up and looked at Albedo in shock. Even Shaltear was the same. She had a room for herself. Naruto felt very ill at that moment. Albedo had been awake for 3 days in a row, standing in that cold spot. I'm so sorry, Albedo. Naruto hugged her. Albedo for once hated the armor his creator had given her, since it prevented her from feeling his master warmth. It was obvious that Albedo did not have a room to return to. It was as if she did not have a place in her own home. Albedo, do you want to stay in my room? The world of Albedo and Shaltear stopped at that moment.